An original
from Story Studio Network.
Hi, I'm Dean Gation, and this is the Powerful Connections Podcast. Welcome to Season 2. For many years, my efforts as a service provider were focused on developing, planning, and building high-voltage projects. Whether it is transmission lines, substations, distribution systems, or connecting generation, projects with my involvement have been successful. My company, DGG5 Advising, is the opportunity maker you need for your energy and construction projects. This season, my guests and I will focus on specific topics of interest and bring them to light in interesting discussions. On this episode, we will discuss creating an Indigenous commercial organization with the First Nations board and the company lead. So joining our discussion today is Christine Goulais, CEO, NBISIING Power, and Brendan Huston, CEO, Nipissing First Nation. So I wish to introduce you to Christine, CEO, NBISIING Power. Thanks for joining us today, and please introduce yourself.
Thanks, Dean. So my name is Christine Goulais. I am a member of Nipissing First Nation, and I am the Chief Executive Officer for NBISIING Power.
Give us a little bit about NBISIING Power.
So NBISIING Power is a business partnership, we're very much focused on Indigenous procurement opportunities, particularly in the energy industry. We are majority owned by Nipissing First Nation with our partner Composite Power Group. We had our grand opening in May of 2022, and we are focused on reselling engineered electrical equipment here in the energy industry. Our vision is to be a leader in supplying engineered electrical equipment in the utility and mining sector, while at the same time supporting our customers' strategic objectives related to Indigenous procurement and capacity building here in Ontario and across Canada. We provide an Indigenous-owned and led opportunity for both our customers and our vendor partners to do business with. And we are located here in Nipissing First Nation. We have what's called the Beneshi Small Business Park, where NBISIING Power rents office space from the nation. We are currently 100% Indigenous employed with 4 full-time employees.
Thanks very much. It is a nice location. Go visit her. Also with us this morning is, as I said, Brendan. He's one of 4 members of the NBISIING Power board. Brendan was a key leader in the early development and implementation of NBISIING Power, and will expand on his continuing and active role as the board member, as well as his ongoing guidance to Christine as the CEO of the business. So I wish to introduce you to Brendan Huston, CEO of Nipissing First Nation. Appreciate you making time for us today, and please introduce yourself.
Thanks, Dean. I'm excited to be here. My name is Brendan Huston. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Nipissing First Nation. I've been in the role for the past 4 years. I'm a proud member of Nipissing First Nation, and happy to have the opportunity to come back home a few years back. My main focus day to day is the public administration for our community, but I'm also a proud member of the team that brought NBISIING Power together a few years back, and I currently sit as a board member.
Give us a little feel of what Nipissing First Nation is and where it's located, and some of the things that go on.
So we're a First Nation located on the north shore of Lake Nipissing. Our reserve land base spans between the city of North Bay and the municipality of West Nipissing. Our organization employs over 250 staff who oversee a wide range of programs and services intended to improve the well-being of our membership. Everything from public works and social services to housing and economic development. As CEO, I take direction from our chief and council, who are elected every 3 years. Whether we're designing a new program or service, drafting a law, or incorporating a new business, we're thinking about how to move our community towards being culturally strong, economically independent, and self-governing. Part of my role as CEO is also to support the development and governance of our business partnerships and entities. So I feel privileged to have had the opportunity to be part of NBISIING Power. Thank you.
Thanks very much. I know Nipissing First Nation is very good organization because you were there, but they've been for a long time one of the leading communities in this province and the country in how they handle themselves. Just so well to see, and they're so professional. So Christine, we've had some discussions about the process to create Indigenous business, but what do you feel is the main reason to support making this decision?
I think there are 2 key aspects to bringing the two partners together to create NBISIING Power. And those are alignment on strategic direction and alignment on values. I think it's really important when you look at developing a partnership, particularly between an Indigenous and non-Indigenous business or community, that there has to be alignment on values and strategic direction, as well as looking at providing a solution to an existing problem or looking at ways to diversify what is happening in the industry. So for us, Nipissing First Nation continues to look at how they can diversify their economic development and growth here in Nipissing so that there's ways to provide direct benefits to the nation and its members while at the same time building capacity. So capacity as in, the 4 jobs that we created here at NBISIING Power in a bit of a different industry than what we're used to seeing, not only in our nation, but in this part of the province. So that was, the strategic direction that the nation was looking to go in was also aligned with the strategic direction that Composite Power, our partner, was looking at going in, and the alignment of values, which were surrounded around that mutual benefit. How are we working together and growing together? How are we mutually benefiting? And how are we collaborating to create an opportunity that's going to provide a solution to this growing need, which we're seeing particularly in this industry of how does organizations like Hydro One and Ontario Power Generation, how are they supporting Indigenous business growth and procurement? NBISIING Power provides them with the solution to do that. That alignment of values and strategic direction was really important. Composite Power, of course, was looking to support both their customers' objectives and their own objectives within their organization about supporting the growth of an Indigenous business in the electrical sector, while at the same time diversifying the offerings that they can bring to their customers and their vendors by having an Indigenous partner.
I like the idea of no matter what you're doing, the business structure is first and foremost, but at the same time, blending the values and needs and things that the community brings and the First Nation brings. It's just so good to see. Brendan, please review creation benefits and opportunities of creating an Indigenous business just in general.
So when we think about business opportunities, we really strive for alignment with our vision as a community. And our vision speaks loudly to things like balance and economic independence. So, and this sort of repeats some of the points that Christine made, but when we think about balance, we're trying to understand the diversity of opportunity that the potential business can create, whether that's jobs for our people, different kinds of jobs, quantity of jobs, procurement opportunities for our member businesses. We have very successful gas stations, construction companies, forestry companies in our nation that can contribute to these opportunities. It could be buying assets or equipment for our nation's benefit, and of course, the obvious wealth generation piece. These are the elements that we believe move the yardsticks forward towards economic independence and self-governance for us. And it's really the philosophy that drives the frameworks we use to evaluate potential partners and business opportunities. I think apart from the obvious, things like your rate of return and the quality or competency of management, we're also looking for partners that are willing to put the effort in to develop a relationship respectfully and are willing to meaningfully partner with us. This obviously means we have to be aligned in our values, but it also just goes beyond what the company says. It's how they treat us when we meet with them. It's how they treat their staff. It's their company culture and their ability to execute on the things that they say. We want to create the conditions to be active partners. We don't want to just be the name slapped on the door. We want to build capacity, understand the business, and contribute to its success. When Composite Power approached us a few years back, they really checked off all those boxes for us. They have a great management team with Rob McNeil, formerly Richard Boy, who has since retired. The opportunity was sound from a business standpoint. Composite Power engaged us meaningfully and very respectfully, and they shared our vision. So that's the approach we took with NBISIING Power, and we're proud to have the business situated here in Nipissing lands with Christine, one of our members, who brings a ton of experience in this space, leading it. It continues to provide meaningful employment in our community and allows us to operate in a new industry. So it's really exciting for us.
You're loud and clear on things we've been talking about for a long time, and that's the capacity, clarity, and certainty in doing work with Indigenous organizations, business, and communities. And to see it at at such a high level and refined level at Nipissing First Nation is very, very outstanding and cool to see. So there are many infrastructure projects happening now and over the next 10 to 15 years that will change the manner in which we operate, develop power required to meet demands, and create economic development for years. There are great opportunities now in front of Nipissing First Nation. This is familiar to you and your board and the community. What are you looking for in an opportunity to support the creation of an Indigenous business?
We're really looking for the fundamentals, and it comes down to alignment with our vision and goals and values. The opportunity must support our long-term economic independence goals, self-governance, and community well-being, and of course, be mutually beneficial to both parties. We want meaningful partnerships, as I mentioned earlier, so partners that are committed to building strong long-term relationships built on mutual respect and trust. Some of this is also ensuring we have a seat at the table and contribute to significant decisions around the business and its strategic direction and investments. The opportunities and the businesses that engage us must keep in mind our goals related to balance and diversity. I mentioned the job creation elements and subcontracting opportunities, that sort of thing. But most importantly, it's about economic sustainability. So we look for opportunities that not only have a strong business case now, but that provide some opportunity to be sustainable in the future. So realistic revenue streams, long-term viability, and not just focusing on the short-term goals.
These are critical items that you see in the director's education program. And to be able to hear you just say them as everyday occurrence tells me you should probably go teach some of the courses at the DEP course in Toronto. There are many, many senior executives in many organizations making statements about their desire to support Indigenous economic development. But Brendan, what does that mean to you in your position as CEO at Nipissing First Nation when you hear that?
Firstly, I think it's great to see the recognition of Indigenous businesses and the acknowledgement of the strength and resilience that we've always had in our communities to build successful businesses. It's also part of the important work that needs to be done to address the many calls to action related to reconciliation. It's important, though, that organizations also act on these statements and commitments they make. It seems simple, but in my experience, we've seen politicians and company executives make lofty commitments in support of Indigenous economic development, but then there's ultimately no action. And there's no doubt good intentions with these statements, but as we know, given the size and scale of some of these organizations, there's often processes, policies, and cultures at the ground level that create more barriers for us in the implementation. Thankfully, we've had tremendous support from our partners at Composite Power in the case of NBISIING Power. And we've seen some of our largest customers, such as Hydro One, walk the walk on their commitments. We've also seen them develop pilot projects and executive sponsorships to help address ground level barriers. If there's a true willingness to address the barriers, there's, of course, a solution to get there. Lastly, I think it's also important that organizations who make these commitments take the time to understand the realities of our communities. We go through great lengths in evaluating a potential partner, and that takes time. And of course, much of that is really to just understand their reality, everything from their financial health to their organizational culture. So if we don't understand our respective realities and the environment in which we each operate in, how can we build a meaningful relationship and operate a successful business together? It takes time, but these are the things that contribute to successful conditions for business activity for us.
I think lots of people don't understand the patience and time to create a good relationship, to really understand both sides. And people have to prove at some point who they are, but the performance is what speaks and solidifies the relationship. So nice to hear this. Christine, I want to talk to you a little bit about benefits. So what does the statement mean to you at NBISIING Power, knowing community benefit is a key strategy for you?
My answer is going to be very similar to Brendan's as it relates to what that action looks like. So I'll just add some additional sort of points that I've been thinking about when I think about those statements and commitments that we're seeing, to Brendan's point, are very well intentioned. We have to think about what they look like in action. And for us here at NBISIING Power, and based on my experience over the last couple of years supporting the growth of the business in this role, to Brendan's point, we have to make sure that those statements are being put into action, and particularly on the customer side. So for us, these are organizations like Ontario Power Generation and Hydro One, as well as some of the contractors that implement large infrastructure projects here in Ontario. We need to make sure that the action is being implemented. And I can share some specific examples of what that action looks like. Mainly, it's a willingness to communicate regularly, right? So what are your project plans? What are your sourcing plans? And where does NBISIING Power fit? Where's the alignment? Brendan pointed out that, we often as Indigenous communities and Indigenous businesses are asked to prove who we are and prove what we can provide and prove that we're ready to do business. But that also has to be reciprocated in the sense that we want to work with you, but you have to show us and be somewhat willing to be transparent around what your plans are and how we can be a part of that at the very earliest stages. It's about project development, sourcing plans, and looking at NBISIING Power's vendor partners and how we can support infrastructure development and be a part of the planning process. It's having customers take us seriously and look at us as a solution to some of their infrastructure development problems, whether it's, new innovative solutions, cost competitive opportunities, better lead times. We're seeing a lot of commitments around or a desire to see Ontario-made equipment. We can offer that through a number of our Ontario-based vendors and manufacturers. But again, we need to understand where the customers are in terms of what their plans are and where we can fit. Brendan also mentioned programs where the customer is looking to work with, in our case, NBISIING Power in a very direct relationship fashion. So Hydro One, Ontario Power Generation, we're a part of their Indigenous-focused programs where, as the CEO of NBISIING Power, I'm paired with the senior executive within those organizations. We meet very regularly. They come to visit us. I go to visit them. And the objective of those conversations is how do we grow together? And it offers a real opportunity for NBISIING Power to present new ideas and have those communicated and socialized within a large organization that we may not otherwise have the opportunity. So those partners in those organizations, they are our allies in the sense that they support advocacy for NBISIING Power. They allow us to share ideas and bring those ideas forward. So those types of programs, that ongoing communication, the willingness to share what their business plans and sourcing plans are, it all contributes to the success and growth of NBISIING Power, because without that ongoing communication, we won't know where to focus our efforts. We're in our third year of business. In the first 5 years of any business, you need to know where to spend your time, and having a sense of where your efforts will create some mutual benefit is critical.
One of the things that we've done years and years of project management, project development, team building, especially if we had multiple partners, but we would create not just health and safety, quality, environment, construction management, and so forth. We would create Indigenous relations, and there would be a point of contact with the leadership of that job, with the ownership, to make sure they understood what was there. And we would normally make a bit of a management group that was either 4 to 6 people that had half Indigenous leadership on it, to make sure the project was, one, meeting its expectations and goals, but achieving what it promised. So having that structure and leadership connection at the highest level is just the best expectations and the best practices for creating those relationships, especially with the big customers with multiple services and multiple projects going on. Knowing what your customers are looking for, how do you translate that into your objective structure and day-to-day operations?
From a day-to-day operations perspective, we look to work with our vendor partners to find opportunities to offer customers with innovative solutions to their growing needs, while at the same time, as I mentioned earlier, providing opportunities to support their broader environmental, social, and governance-related objectives. So as an Indigenous business, we understand that organizations like Hydro One and Ontario Power Generation have Indigenous-related targets that they're looking to meet. We want to help them do that, but we're not here to simply help them check a box. We want to provide additional value add the fact that we are an Indigenous business should really be a bonus, right? We're providing innovative, cost-effective solutions. We are offering them opportunities to meet their project timelines. We provide excellent customer service. Again, we're partnering with vendors that can provide innovative solutions that support their broader objectives. Day-to-day operations piece, again, is about this ongoing communication, regular meetings, making sure we understand each other and what the objectives are. One example I can offer is we've had a number of our customers come and meet us in person here in Nipissing First Nation, which allows for a different level of relationship building, right? Brendan mentioned this earlier, understanding who we are, where we come from, where we live. We have families here, we work here. We're not accountable to only ourselves, we're accountable to our community. And I think customers who come to visit us get a better idea of who we are, not only as a NBISIING Power, but also who we are as people who are from the community and who are trying to build a business to support those broader community objectives and to support, to Brendan's point, that future sustainable growth. Customer outreach, relationship building, growth, that's all built into our strategic plan. So we develop a strategic plan every year that's focused on how do we continue to grow the business in a sustainable way while at the same time supporting our customer objectives. We attend many industry-related events, so we're always learning about what the broader provincial-related objectives are, how our customers are impacted, and how we work together to build those solutions. The other thing I wanted to mention is we're always making sure that there's alignment in our strategic objectives to those objectives that we're trying to meet with our customers, working towards mutual benefit, mutual growth, while at the same time making sure NBISIING Power is at the forefront in terms of being a leader in working with these customers and providing those innovative, cost-effective solutions.
The interaction and networking, is part of the energy sector, always has been a very good part of it. And your presence there is definitely getting noticed, that's for sure. I'm going to get into the shareholder board structure and the benefit and the reasoning for it, but tell us a little bit about what your structure is to report to your board.
Sure. From a governance perspective, NBISIING Power is governed by a board of directors. We are majority owned by Nipissing First Nation with our partner Composite Power. The board is made up of two individuals from Nipissing First Nation, so Brendan Huston, who's with us today, and Dwayne Nashqua, who is Nipissing First Nation's strategic advisor to Chief and Council. Dwayne was also very influential in bringing the NBISIING Power partnership together. And then we have board members from Composite Power, so Rob McNeil and Richard Boyd, the former president of Composite Power, who is now retired. So we have a board made up of both Nipissing First Nation and Composite Power members to provide that balance that Brendan talked about earlier. We meet quarterly. I provide all the required materials for meetings. So we review financial statements, sales reports. We go over strategy, what the growth plans are. The board members are very active in the sense that they do provide a lot of guidance and advice on the business development and growth. So although we meet quarterly, there's regular ongoing communication with myself and all board members on a regular basis. Composite Power bringing, that operational technical expertise to the table, and Nipissing First Nation bringing that community business development, economic development expertise to the table. So we do meet regularly. We do have a formal governance process in place. However, the communication is very regular and ongoing outside of those meetings, which is greatly appreciated by me, trying to, support the growth of a new business. It's always nice to know you've got a solid foundation of support behind you. And that's really what the board members bring, is that solid foundation of support and guidance on a regular basis. The formality of board oversight is one thing. The ability of having good advisors at your beck and call separates you from the rest of the crowd. And that's always been the nicety of, to use that balance of what we used to call nose in, hands off. And it's such a neat thing to see it in action. So I'm going to go one step further.
he's here, but what are the benefits of having the ability to work directly with Brendan?
Well, having the ability to work with someone like Brendan, not only is Brendan a wonderful person to work with, but he's very well connected to the community in the sense that he's working and living in the community every day. I don't have the same level of interaction that Brendan has, particularly with Chief and Council. He mentioned 250 plus staff members and a lot of ongoing community interaction. So I do rely on Brendan to make sure that as we're getting ready to present to Chief and Council, for example, or as we're getting ready to put information out to the community, that there is alignment in terms of what the expectations are and how NBISIING Power can, again, align with the nation's strategic objectives while at the same time meeting the expectations of who we are as a business. The nation invested in this business, so we are accountable to the nation and its members. So I do rely on Brendan to provide me with that guidance and support to make sure that we are communicating effectively to our Chief and Council as well as our members about who we are and what we do. The really cool thing about being in the community is people can stop in and visit us and talk to us about what we do. Our doors are always open. We're also right next to a craft store, so that helps with some additional actions for people to come visit us.
Good.
But in addition, the unique set of experiences and expertise that not only Brendan, but Dwayne, Rob, and Richard bring has really created that foundation for NBISIING Power. That connectedness to the community that Brendan and Dwayne bring, as well as all of their experience, and that operational technical guidance that Composite Power brings, as well as their connectedness to the vendor partners that we utilize, as well as customers. They help, guide us to make sure we're on the right track and where to focus our efforts. So I'm very lucky to have 4 board members that are willing to put in the time and the effort to help build and grow this business, while at the same time providing me with some, additional guidance and support along the way.
The back of the barn statement is they've got skin in the game.
That's right.
Brendan, tell us a little bit from your perspective in the leadership at the board of Nipissing First Nation, how you do the communications and commit to support any commercial organization. You've got a number of them going on, but give us a feel of how you guys participate with it.
A lot of it for us here at Nipissing First Nation comes down to ensuring you have the right representation on the board, and also ensuring that those people are going to be present and engaged in the business opportunity. This means obviously individuals that have complementary experience and skills to support the business from its incorporation and through the growth cycles. We all know that startups operate in an environment of constant change and often friction. So part of how Dwayne and I see our roles on the board is really an effort to reduce the friction as much as possible for Christine and to make sure that she has the tools and resources she needs to focus on growing the business. That's really about helping address some of the fundamental challenges of owning Indigenous businesses. Things like access to capital are always challenging. And really, as a result of our approach in Nipissing, we're fortunate to have some mature business entities now that have generated some own source revenue for us, which we have the care and control on its use, with the approval of our council, of course. But this revenue generation has really enabled us to support our businesses with additional investment in things like working capital, equipment, or helping reduce barriers related to traditional streams of financing. So part of the work that Dwayne and I do is to reduce these barriers and to help support informed decision-making with our council and the community, of course, of who we're accountable to. We've been really fortunate to have a culture of leadership and community support for business activity here in Nipissing Nation. And our chief and council are very supportive of all the work that our businesses do and have the utmost confidence in Christine and her team at NBISIING Power. One last thing I just wanted to mention on this front is the importance of clear strategic direction. It feels like there's an ocean of opportunity, but we also need to be mindful of our constraints in terms of resources, capacity, and focus. So Dwayne and I, in supporting Christine and alongside our partners at Composite Power, really try to be clear in our strategic direction and focus for the business, where we want to be, where we are now, what type of vision and tactics are going to get us there. And it involves being selective about the opportunities that are presented to us and the sectors that we want to focus on.
It's really hard to not chase every wagon going by. That structure and analysis bodes well in why you have been successful and why you've got mature businesses, and it's just absolutely phenomenal to watch. Next item I wanted to chat about, Brendan, was what are the rewards and challenges of owning an Indigenous business?
Yeah, so I think in terms of benefits, you of course have a tremendous opportunity to make meaningful impact in a community without strong business activity, creating jobs, infrastructure, and economic opportunity within the community. We're really challenged to strive for self-determination and to address the many wellness challenges that we see in both Indigenous and non-Indigenous communities alike. Obviously, given the calls to action, the commitments related to Indigenous economic reconciliation, there are Indigenous specific procurement policies, and as a result, a growing demand for Indigenous expertise. So that is a tremendous benefit for Indigenous businesses. But we also need to keep in mind, and I mentioned this earlier, we have a ton of strengths and skills within our community. So building an Indigenous business also means tapping into a strong network of Indigenous professionals within our community and in this sector. And there are organizations that are funded specifically to support Indigenous business activity and to cultivate those networks. But lastly, on the benefits front, building an Indigenous business, if done properly, also means alignment with value systems such as sustainability principles. And this promotes long-term business success and culturally appropriate branding that is beneficial, of course, for both Indigenous and non-Indigenous businesses alike. In terms of challenges, I mentioned a little bit earlier, but one of the significant ones would be access to capital. It's very challenging to seek funding and financing for a lot of our business opportunities and projects. Land ownership requirements and traditional funding streams create challenges and barriers. There's, of course, a lot of dialogue on that. And I think, as much as there is opportunity to align values, I think one of the biggest challenges is it takes time to build and cultivate a relationship and to understand each other's realities and to really identify where those value alignments are. So I guess that one of the challenges is ultimately it takes time. And I think sometimes companies come to us and want to rush the process of making business entities and tackling opportunities. And honestly, that's a red flag for us. So we need to be mindful of our respective realities and understand each other and build a meaningful relationship.
I think one of the benefits I have of now being not in charge of a major business and helping advise people in a lot of things, I get a lot of opportunities to kind of fold things together, and getting those memorandums of understanding or getting the intentions put down on people of roles and responsibilities and communication and structure and so forth. You just mentioned, we want companies that want to invest and spend the time. And I see a change now from just those project benefit packages to equity partnerships and long-term planning, that people are seeing it's way better if I get into business with them full time and find a whole bunch of things to do than recreate this business bit by bit, month by month. And so I believe we're at the start of a big wave of unbelievable numbers of businesses and partnerships that are going to just blow the doors off of it. And the energy sector has always been the lead in all of this stuff. Anything we've done, electricity's led the way, whether it's mining, municipal development, expansions for whatever. So you at your organization and at NBISIING Power are in such a good spot. And, I think we've highlighted the benefits and opportunities here. Now it's a matter of people have to get on the bandwagon and get in the game or get left behind, because you're definitely ahead of the wave here, and it's really nice to see. We're going to get to closing. Thank you both for being on Powerful Connections. This has been a tremendous discussion, but I always like to close with everybody to give us their closing remarks and things to leave our people with. So Brendan, give us your thoughts on creating an Indigenous business as we close.
Thanks, Dean. So I think at the end of the day, creating an Indigenous business isn't just about economic growth for us. It's about building something meaningful for our community. It's about ensuring that we have control over our future and creating opportunities for our people and forming partnerships that align with our values. The business success ultimately comes from relationships and from understanding each other's realities and making commitments that turn into action for us. For organizations looking to partner with First Nations like us, there's incredible opportunity to build long-term, meaningful relationships that foster things like innovation, inclusion, and shared business success. Indigenous communities bring unique skills and strengths, from deep-rooted sustainability principles to skilled workforces and strategic land-based opportunities. For us, true partnerships aren't just transactional, they're built on trust, respect, and shared vision. So I'm proud of what we built with NBISIING Power. I look forward to seeing more Indigenous-led businesses and partnerships thrive in the years to come. So thanks again, Dean.
Thanks very much. I don't think people really understand what it means when communities and nations have a land use plan. And that's something people need to investigate and learn about. It's very critical. You can have environmental assessment, but also what is the land use plan of the nation? Christine, please leave us with a closing remark for our listeners to think about.
Well, miigwech for having me, Dean, and Brendan, miigwech for joining. I think, in closing, I'd like to share that NBISIING Power, yes, we are an Indigenous business, and yes, we are owned by Nipissing First Nation, but I think it's more important to note how closely connected we are to the nation. As a nation-owned business, we live and work here in the community. Our office is located in the community. NBISIING Power is in a unique position to support other nation businesses and nation partnerships in the work that we do. The majority of us who work here are members of Nipissing First Nation, and we have other nation members who work here with us as well. We share our business successes and challenges with Nipissing First Nation leadership on a regular basis and open up our minds to their feedback and guidance, given all of the great experience they bring. Being in the nation means our door is always open to nation members who want to stop in and visit and learn more about the business. We've been here for almost 3 years now, and, our members are still learning who we are and what we do. So it's really important that our doors are open and here in the community for them to come and learn and understand what the business is about and how we contribute to broader community growth. I think this connection to the community and our people is really the strongest contributor to our ongoing success as a new and growing business.
Thank you very much. This has been a great discussion on the decision-making process for a First Nation to create a business. In this episode, Christine Goulais points out the duties as CEO and also the support of board members in guiding her actions and decisions in the operation of a successful Indigenous business. Brendan Huston discusses the issues facing First Nations in creating businesses, having to deal with the processes, policies, and cultures of the communities while making a meaningful relationship to be able to operate a successful business together. The energy sector has made and continues to make serious changes in Indigenous procurement and economic development. So, Rainey, what did you absorb and uncover from the discussions with Christine and Brendan?
Well, a few key points. This was a great conversation with Christine and Brendan. Nipissing First Nation is an Indigenous community that strategically thinks about moving their community towards being culturally strong, economically independent, self-governing, and supporting viable, diverse, Indigenous-based businesses. Doing business with Nipissing First Nation, and it's with most Indigenous communities, takes time to develop strong relationships that look towards the future, sustainability, and lasting the long term. These folks are not interested in business partners that are only in it for the short term to rush to get a single project done or tick the box that they have Indigenous participation on a singular project. They're looking for partners that are strategically aligned and share the same values with regards to business culture and caring for the community. So they want to be treated respectively as an active partner in a business. They want to contribute to the success of the business for all partners, and they want to provide a value service to their customers. NBISIING Power demonstrates the strength of a long-term relationship between a First Nations community like Nipissing First Nation and a non-Indigenous commercial partner like Composite Power. NBISIING Power wants to show the benefits of working with a First Nations business in the innovation, the reliability, great customer service, and providing value to their project partners and business partners that invest in them. Composite Power, on their side, is demonstrating the patience to let the relationship develop and its senior people are investing their time to provide their guidance, their knowledge, and their contacts in the energy industry space. Similarly, Nipissing First Nation Council, on Brendan Huston's side, they understand that it takes time for a startup to mature and become independent, and the people that are on the board of NBISIING Power representing First Nation understand this as well. Access to capital is not easy for Indigenous startups, but the board members that are on NBISIING Power have helped to remove those and other barriers to make NBISIING Power a great success. One of the other keys that I heard in all of this was having good customer relationships and great customers like Hydro One, OPG, and Bruce Power that NBISIING Power has. These companies and their senior staff, which was very cool, are interested in growing a strong relationship with NBISIING Power, and NBISIING Power wants to do the same with them. It's a winning combination for both partners and customers alike in this relationship. It brings great results, great value to the Indigenous and non-Indigenous people in Ontario, and possibly it's a model for other places in Ontario and beyond. That's what I got. Dean, over to you. Tell me some key takeaways.
The First Nation communities must have good leadership and internal structure in their business development and management. The communications and exchange of business and sourcing plans will contribute to the success of Indigenous partnerships. And the energy sector developments are changing the opportunities for business to develop and the opportunity for mutual growth, economic development, and equity ownership in the communities to create wealth. Strategic planning and organizational structure, as well as community values, help create a balance in Indigenous businesses. Look forward to hearing from you after you listen to each episode. I encourage you to subscribe to Powerful Connections wherever you get your podcasts. Share the podcast with those you feel will find it interesting and useful. Connect with me on my website at dgg5advising.com or find me on LinkedIn at Dean G. Gation.